What's up, y'all? Chris here to give some predictions for UFC 158, GSP versus Diaz, long-awaited showdown. First off, the prelims, look out for Darren Cruikshank versus John Makdessi. Has potential to be fight of the night. As far as the main card, just going to talk about a couple fights real quick. Jake Ellenberger versus Nate Marquardt. Was supposed to be Ellenberger versus Hendricks, but Hendricks moved up to the co-main event. Has Marquardt's leg recovered from that whooping that Safadine gave it? Not sure. Give me Ellenberger by decision. Co-main event, Carlos Condit versus Johnny Hendricks. Was supposed to be Condit versus Roy McDonald too, but Roy got hurt. This fight, just as good, on paper. I know Hendricks been on a roll, looking to get that title shot, but I think he loses this one. I think Condit's a much larger fighter, much better on the feet overall. And on the ground, Condit's such a lanky fighter that even if Hendricks gets him down, I don't know if he's going to be able to do much damage in his guard. So give me Condit by decision, if not TKO. Main event, UFC welterweight champion George St. Pierre, Nick Diaz, challenger. Like I said, long-awaited fight. Was supposed to happen previously, but got canceled for lame reasons. Full disclosure, I've said time and again, Nick Diaz is my favorite fighter in the sport. Has been probably since the first time I've seen the guy fight. So obviously I want him to win this fight. And it's funny because I've said in the past, I have no problem picking against my favorite fighters, but in a way I feel bad doing so. It's like I feel like I'm showing a lack of faith in them, or I feel like I'm betraying them. Like, how could you not pick against a guy who's your favorite fighter? However, based on the styles, it's hard for me not to make George St. Pierre the favorite in this one. Obviously, on the feet, I give the edge to Nick Diaz. I think he is the better boxer, although GSP's got a hell of a jab. Actually, GSP's more well-rounded on the feet with the kicks and stuff, but we never really see GSP stick to the stand-up too much unless he's got a huge mismatch against, like, Shields and Koscheck in the rematch. But that's not going to be the case here, so I don't know how long this fight's going to take place on the feet. And unfortunately, Nick has terrible takedown defense from wrestling, so George St. Pierre wants to put Nick on his back. That's what he's going to do. And that's likely the outcome because Nick Diaz does most of his damage on his feet. I mean, even a guy like Carlos Condit, who said he was going to come to war and you expect to, wouldn't engage Nick on the feet. But I do hope this fight takes sustained periods in the stand-up because I want to see how their boxing, counters one another. George St. Pierre could be successful with those leg kicks because Nick never checks them. But just don't think he wants to get in a real dogfight with Nick. So he's going to want to take this fight to the ground. Nick, very good grappler. Underrated there to a degree. I mean, everyone knows he's a good submission guy, but we just don't get to see a whole lot of it. However, I don't see him submitting George St. Pierre. We haven't seen GSP submitted since the first Hughes fight. I don't see Nick getting it done here. George St. Pierre's got a heavy top game, very strong. Just not the kind of guy that's going to you ever really see in danger of getting caught in submissions. So I don't think it's going to happen here. The only way I see Nick winning by submission is if he was able to hurt George St. Pierre on the feet and then, fall him to the ground and submit him there. But I don't know. 5-round fight. Nick usually gets stronger as the fight goes on, so he's got that going for him. However, if he's on his back most of the time, which I could likely see happening, don't think that's really much of an advantage. Ultimately, if I had to bet money, if I had to bet big money, substantial money that would hurt me financially, I would put it on George St. Pierre. I want Nick to win this fight. I do think he is capable of winning this fight, possibly by stoppage. I don't think he's going to win a decision, but I think the likely scenario, the likely outcome is that George St. Pierre is going to play it safe, do what he does in most of his defenses, title defenses, take Nick down, control him from there, and cruise in a relatively lackluster, or at least underwhelming, fight to a decision. The build-up, I think, would be better than the fight itself. Somewhat like Condit Diaz, although I expected that fight to be a damn barn burner, it wasn't. But with George, I think you know what to expect, particularly against a dangerous opponent like Nick Diaz. I hope Nick wins on not only because he's my favorite fighter, but I think the prospect of Nick as champion, taking on Condit in a rematch, Johnny Hendricks as a contender, Ellenberger, Safadine, Roy McDonald, who GSP won't fight, Tyron Woodley, just the prospect of Nick fighting all those guys is a lot more intriguing and appealing to me than George St. Pierre fighting those guys because you kind of have an idea of how those fights would go. Plus, we didn't see the McDonald fight. Anyways, looking forward to the event either way. Even if I don't think Nick's going to win this fight, I am looking forward to the fight itself and the event in general. What are your guys' thoughts on the event? Are you looking forward as much as I am? Thoughts on any of the undercard fights, as well as the main event? Who do you see winning and how or why? And who would you rather see win the main event? Would you like to see Nick win if you don't think even if you don't think he will, for some of the reasons I stated, or would you rather see a dominant champion in George St. Pierre in the hopes of a potential Anderson Silva super fight, which you never see that happening. Actually, if Nick wins, I think he's more likely to fight Anderson than George St. Pierre is. I'll talk about this event more in depth on this weekend Science Fights radio show. Links to that and everything else Science Fights related, as well as my Twitter information for the video as always. And I'll be back to talk about the fight probably the night of afterwards. But until then, I'm out.